Welcome back to Orbital Gate. Tonight with special guest Morgan Ryan, known for her artwork in comics, and also the project lead and editor of the Bionicle illustrated fanzine. Morgan, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm currently working on a commission right now. I'm drawing a little Bionicle guy for a client,
Hell yeah.
and I'm doing good. I'm having a pretty relaxed day today. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm hanging out on board the orbital station and just taking in the view. So
Hell yeah.
hopefully no one can tell we already recorded this and are starting over. But yeah, who are you and what are you known for?
My name is Morgan Ryan. I am a illustrator, comic book artist, and writer. I've worked on a bunch of projects. I'm probably most well known for a series of Bionicle fanzines that is called Bionicle Illustrated. It's a really cool series where each year we release a little free slash pay what you want booklet PDF of comics and artwork and building instructions on all this cool stuff based on whatever year of Bionicle we're celebrating.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited, and what's really cool about the zine is just it's such a cool collective of artists with all different styles, and I think that's what was really cool about Bionicle was it was this multimedia project, and Bionicle has just become this cultural phenomenon. Do you ever think about that sometimes?
What I love about it is everyone has this shared everyone parentheses born between 1994 to maybe 2002. In terms of casual fans, and when you see the greater internet talk about Bionicle, everyone kind of remembers it with awe or remember Bionicle? That was crazy, And I think that just speaks to how strong graphic design and the visual presentation of the series, how much of the advertising and the visual user experience of interacting with the brand is so strong, and it feels like nothing like it before or after has come close in my mind, because it's weird. The whole first year the idea was that let's create a series of ads for a movie that doesn't exist.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like this.
the Phantom Blockbuster.
Yeah, and
Shout out to Waj for giving me the heads up on that term.
it's like that turn of the century optimism about go to our website. We have a website, but in the most positive, it is an invitation to explore. It's an invitation to imagine. From one perspective, from a purely toy perspective, the toys are incredibly cool. And then there's something so mysterious about its presentation where it relies on you as an audience to be intrigued. There's an inherent mystery to the advertising material.
Yeah, it feels like this ancient legend. There's this aura of mystery, and it's
Yeah.
not a lot of toy commercials are like, "Hey kids, you can you can build the Bionicles. They're so radical."
They're very loud and kinetic and in your face.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me because on one hand, Bionicle was this big, corporate product that was focus tested to hell, but at the same time, it was the perfect storm of creative risk taking. Lego was able to take a lot of risks because financially, they weren't doing so good. They were kind of trying to throw everything on the wall, see what sticks in the early 2000s. So because of that, it was the perfect storm to create this multimedia project that was more than just a toy line. You can never get the story in one place. There were comics, there was a website, there were movies, there were video games, and that's something I miss. I think with the internet now, things are a lot more centralized, but they were just able to create this fascinating world that draws you in without really talking down to kids. It was more just showing you visually that tells a story on its own. You don't really need to even read up on it.
Yeah, and the comics that were included in Lego Magazine, those were really the first comics that I really got into. I basically got into like Bionicle at like the tail end of 2005. So like I stepped into this world in like the end of a filler arc. So I'm like, there's Fordika, Toa, and they're fighting these robot spiders in a city. There's a Visorak battle ram. What could this possibly? What led up to this? And then 2006 is like a clean start, like kind of like a soft reboot. There's a whole new island. There's a whole new cast of characters, and for me, what really hooked me was that the artist, I believe it was Stuart Sager.
I love Stuart Sager. His art is so unique, and they were doing a more of a messy, kind of gritty and almost like abstract style that year.
Right. They put out a Bionicle Ignition issue 0, and it had like a one-page comic or 1 or 2 page comic preview. That was basically just like a tease of like what's to come next. I thought this was so interesting. It was like an interview with the comic artist talking about like, hey, so what was it like working on the new Bionicle comic? And like only until just now, just talking about this, like I think that was like the first time I ever thought about art, like the artist behind an art, where someone is being interviewed for the work they did and talking about the technique and what they're trying to put into it. I remember when reading like the first couple of issues of Ignition, I was like shocked because one, the artwork is phenomenal, but two, it was so radically different. And I thought it was so interesting that like it's like the same story, but like a different artist has a different view into the world that they're depicting. It made me as an artist be like, well, how am I looking at the world? And like this sounds so it's so silly that like this is all wrapped up in like Bionicle stuff, but like it did have like a pretty big impact on me. And I remember like especially the 2007 year, like that was like the peak for Bionicle for me. Like the comics, the story, it was incredible.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorites. I love the animated short they did. You know, the Toa underwater and they're gearing up in the submarine and like Pearl Jam is playing or I don't know what band
Right.
Daughtry, this like angsty 2000s rock. And yeah, that's one thing I think is so cool about Bionicle is like I think it hit us at that age when our minds were just open to creativity and new media, finding new ways to look at that. And for me, it was like 3D animation and 3D artwork, and like that just altered my brain chemistry. And for you, it was comics, and I think that's kind of what you're trying to do with the zine is have all these different on ramps for people to get into it, and
Right.
everyone has a very unique style, and also highlighting their work. Like that whole Stuart Sager interview in the comics. So like, yeah, we're building the next generation of Bionicle. I don't know, but I feel like that stuff can go way beyond Bionicle and into our own creations.
That has been like I think I've mentioned this before, but like one of the great joys of doing the zine is that one, get to collaborate with so many awesome artists and writers and creators. But also I'm always like the day that like the deadline for entries comes in is so much fun because I just check my Google inbox and some people will share like progress photos, but other people like will share nothing until the deadline comes up. And then I'm like, what? Like last year, someone did it was like a Halo 3 cover with Vakama and Metru Nui. And I
Yes.
was like,
Oh, yeah. I love that one. That's one of my favorites. Shout out to Prague who drew that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
his artwork is awesome.
Like that blew me away. And it's so fun because like it's a weird subject matter, these like biomechanical robots that have tribal backgrounds. So like artistically and with all the different multimedia ways in which these strange creatures are depicted, like everyone comes at it from a different angle. I lean more towards like set accuracy. I really like the design of the parts themselves, except for the Metro lower leg section. That is my enemy. I hate that piece with a passion.
I still don't know how you like draw Bionicle parts on model. I would go insane if I had to do that.
It's just like patience, and then I usually have like a little box of random pieces next to me for like reference. I'll have the piece in my left hand, and I'll be drawing with my right hand. If I make a mistake in inking, I try to incorporate the mistake lines into the drawing. I'll usually like avoid it for a little bit, and then while I'm avoiding it, I think of a way to like incorporate it back into the ink. I love inking. I love inking so much. I go through about like 10 trillion pens a year.
Well, your inking style is very distinct. Like I love like the really bold outlines and just the harsh shadows. So, what are some of your original comics or new projects you're currently working on? Earlier we were talking about The Smell of Home, which was a comic you did a few years ago. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, so I went to college for illustration, and so for a senior like capstone project, I did like a 24-page comic called The Smell of Home. And after I graduated, I continued working on it and I posted it to Webtoon Canvas, which I am very opinionated on. I could talk about that for like 4 hours at minimum. Was soapbox rant, but
Oh yeah, no, Webtoon like kind of sucks. Yeah.
yeah, and it's I approached the project hoping it would be like this massive success. And part of the reason why I stopped working on it is because I put so much stock into how well or how poorly it was doing. I developed like a very unhealthy relationship with my work for that project. Last year, I felt like my goal artistically was to get better working in like digitally because I ink everything traditionally and then scan it in. That was like the big hurdle is like getting more comfortable with digital illustration. And this year, I feel like my goal is to develop like a healthier relationship with all the things I'm doing. Doing artwork for myself and not for like the metrics or the number of likes it gets on social media.
No, that's really cool. I think it's hard to balance all that stuff, because I feel like none of us really want to focus on that, but like as soon as you're in like an environment where people are posting stuff and you want to like stay relevant, you kind of go down that road. And I've also been trying to like get away from that, but yeah, I mean, I just want to say like I love Smell of Home. I think it's awesome.
Thank
Especially
you.
like the
You are like the only person I've talked to who's read it and like liked it basically. Like
yeah.
I showed it to a bunch of people, and it was like partially based on Dungeons and Dragons campaign that I ran in high school. At least the characters, the two main characters. And so when I like showed it to my D&D party at home, everyone was like, "Oh, that's cool. That's sick." And then that was like the be all end all of the discussion. I appreciate it. I look back at it fondly, but it's also like the best thing I got out of it is I learned so much about like comic storytelling. If you have an idea for like a comic in your mind, I would say like just go out and start working on it. It's fun. I have so much fun making comics.
I love the opening to Smell of Home with this character Callus. He's kind of like this old monk has kind of lost his way and he's kind of like living in this nightmare world. I'm sure you can describe it better, but it's got such a great intro and the way you introduce these characters. One thing I really like about Callus as a character is like times are rough and he's kind of going through it. There's a lot of surreal imagery and he's basically just in a living nightmare and seems like he's close to death, and then this assassin comes in, and then like he's still got it, and he's kind of a badass. Now he's like got cool like one-liners, and you figure out this is who this character is about. And then you learn about this girl who she's really just trying to like save her family and stuff and her village. But go read Smell of Home. Like if y'all are interested in like Morgan's Bionicle fan art and comics, like you're gonna like it. So, yeah.
It's funny hearing like the end result of like how people read that character, because the way that Callus character started was our like high school D&D campaign that I ran, that the characters came from basically. When we started playing D&D, it was just hijinks. It was just like fun small stakes adventures. No one really had like a backstory. As the weeks turned to months, turned to years, everyone's characters got more and more complex, both like physically and emotionally. You spend more and more time with these characters, and they kind of become a part of yourself. And the Callus character kind of had like a running joke that like he didn't have a backstory. He was like very undefined. And so when I started Smell of Home, I was looking for a protagonist of, well, which of these D&D characters would make the best protagonist or have the most leeway for me as a writer to work with. And Callus kind of one, it allowed me to basically rip off Arzak visuals because I was like, I gotta draw that. And then throughout the course of working on it, it kind of evolved into something else. And so this new project I'm working on is kind of a do-over of Smell of Home. It's kind of like a remake. It was a great learning process, you know?
This could be a good segue for one of the questions is creating a comic that can be like a massive project. So, what are some of the challenges you've encountered as an artist and any advice for those trying to get into comics?
I would say my best advice to anyone trying to start a comic, and this can apply to really any creative project, is like start small. One of the like best pieces of advice my professor gave me was like just start with one page. Just start with 4 panels. Just start with 3 panels. Before you jump into like the deep end, like work on your doggy paddle. There's a bunch of great resources. Scott McCloud has a great book on like the fundamentals of comics, and he has like a fancy like academic term for it. Sequential storytelling. If an actor plays in performance, then a comic plays in time. The heart of comics is that you are depicting a change in time in space. You show a picture of a clock, and then you show a picture of a man's face. You show a picture of like a woman lying down, and then you show the same man and he's smiling. As a reader, we are creating meaning in the space between panels, essentially. Like in the time between panels is where the magic happens. Wally Wood, an artist from the 1950s and 60s who worked on EC Comics, one great thing he did, it's like one of the golden reference materials I use, is Wally Wood's 22 panels that always work. Panel compositions that never fail. Like you can never go wrong with one character close up in the frame, one character far away. You know, kind of like all these different shot compositions that, if nothing else fails, these are like reliable visual beats to work with. In terms of visual storytelling, you want to always depict the highest and lowest points of conflict and action and tension. Let's say a character is swinging a sword. You don't want to depict them like mid swing, basically. It doesn't read as well. You want them to depicting like holding the sword high over his head, and then the next panel is like swing impact, boom.
It's kind of like keyframes in animation. You
Yeah,
know, like you
yeah.
wouldn't have the in between frame for the comic, you know, it would be like at the end of the swing or, when he's winding up, that sort of thing. But I definitely agree with you with starting small. Just helps out a lot because I feel like we have both encountered really big projects that just keep growing and then we have to catch up and finish them and sometimes it feels like running a marathon.
Yeah.
I love doing that stuff, but at the same time, it's like, you're first starting out, like, it's good to keep it in scope a bit. Just give it a shot and try it, and I feel like you learn the most just by doing.
I have one of my professors was always saying that like when you're working on a big project, save the thing that you want to do the most for last, because that excitement and enthusiasm will carry you through the rest of the project. In the same way where as a DM in D&D or as a YouTuber, I think about like the audience. I'm like I've always like taken pride in the ability to make strangers laugh. I like being an entertainer. I like having a group of people's attention and holding that attention and then getting a big laugh or a big reaction. And I try and do the same thing with myself. I know this scene will be really fun to draw. Like, I think a big part of working on projects is making it fun for yourself. Like, you've
Yeah,
got to
yeah, absolutely.
follow the fun and make sure you are enjoying the work, you know?
Yeah, I think that's something I try to do as well. Do you ever just like have these ideas for so long, and it might be like months on end when you're working on a project, and then to finally put that into play and have it on the page or have it on the screen and it's real and you just can't wait to share it. Like that's kind of the things that keep me going, you know?
It is that's like the whole that's why we do it. You know, like
Yeah. You can't even describe it, right? But like you just know like you have to find a way to realize that, you know.
yeah, I the comic that I'm working on, there are several moments that I know if I was reading it, I would jump out of my seat. You know what I mean? Where like there are some comics I've read where I've literally like I've been like out, I've been laying on the couch. And then there's like the peak of emotion. I was watching Akira Kurosawa's High and Low, which is a really great film, really great thriller. It's about a shoe factory manager is about to make a big move to basically like purchase a majority stake in the company. And right before he's about to do that, a kidnapper kidnaps his son. But then it's revealed it's not his son. The kidnapper kidnapped the wrong boy. The kidnapper kidnapped like his driver's son, who was just playing at his house at the same time. So there's a moment late in the film where the kidnapper and the main character basically like bump into each other in the street. And when I tell you, I like leaped to my feet because, like, oh my God, they're about to bump into each other, you know? And
Yeah, just the tension is at an all-time high.
yeah, it's like the tension and like the excitement, like, where it's like
You know something's gonna happen.
something is gonna happen. And I love that. I love when it's like, oh my God, like,
Yeah.
I can't even put it into words, but like when you're at the edge of your seat, I love both experiencing that as a reader, but then also writing those scenes. I get so giddy knowing because I've like shared parts of my comic, my new thing with people, and I've gotten big reactions. So I get so much excitement knowing that people will be excited reading. Like I know I'm onto something good and I'm so eager to do it. You know, like
Yeah. You've showed me some of your new comic and, just the ideas and story. And I almost don't want to like really reveal much because I know it's going to be amazing and I'm really excited for it. And I almost want to like keep that aura of mystery, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to share too much about it just because one, I'm still like deep in the writing overall outline and the overall plot. I have all of like the character to character relationships figured out, of like the interpersonal play. It's one of those things where like I can't think of anything like all my waking hours I'm thinking about this thing. Like I'm obsessed with this idea and this story. It's like my whole life has become this story. Like it is fully captured my imagination and I'm like I it's going to be great. Is all is all I'm going to say.
I am really excited for your new comic, and you have these ideas and you just fall in love with ideas and you got to find a way to do it. But from what you've told me about it is so raw and emotional.
I want it to
And
be like ugly. I've always I feel like I've like always been like I feel like shame and like embarrassment has been such a constant in my life, and I want to be so brutally honest in raw, ugly, and like this project is it has meaning, and like I want to put meaning and care and like honest and vulnerable and like messy, like Ethel Kane, the artist, the musician, she said that like Gen Z has an irony problem. Like the art that matters is the art that's like vulnerable and real, and that's what I wanted. Like that is like the guiding idea. Like I wanna put part of myself that like I wanna put parts of myself that I've like never told anyone about. It's not an autobiographical comic, but you put aspects of yourself into every character and every thing.
yeah, it's not literally about you, but emotionally, you're able to translate that stuff and express it in a way that is unique to you and only you can do, through comics and your medium. And no, I can't wait. I'm super hyped. And but I'll just say, like, I can really relate to a lot of the stuff you're saying, and um I feel like with these types of projects, it's the real you, and that's something only you can bring to life.
We can start with all the things that turn us out, and we can go right down the list and throw them out. Can we start
In Metru Nui, caught in the Visorak web, change has begun. Behold, Toa Hodika. Reshaped with new body armor, each Toa must control a new elemental tool and master the Ratsuka spinner. Catch the power of the Toa Hodika. Bionicle. Each set sold separately.
I feel like that would be like a good way to segue into where the conversation started.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah. We need to talk about Gen 13
Gen 13, we got to talk about Gen 13.
because the people out there,
Yes,
they don't know about Gen 13.
and they need to know.
A few months ago, Morgan shared this movie she saw on Discord.
In the 90s comic boom, the industry got like exploded overnight basically, and so there's just like all these new titles being produced, and one of them was Gen 13. It somehow got like an OVA adaptation, and it's kind of incredible. It's like hyper violent teenage superhero kind of X-Men vibe. It kind of looks like a Bruce Timm animated like DC.
Yeah, it very much feels like a similar style to kind of like the DCAU, like the kind of 90s, early 2000s DC animated shows. Like you said, it's hyper violent and really over the top, but also like it's a really good story. I describe it as like X-Men meets Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, the first 10 minutes are so weird. It's like where this girl is at college and she's like the smartest girl at her college or something. This military guy shows up and it's like, you've been recruited for this military academy. You should come join us. And she's like, all right.
At first, she's like kind of reluctant. It's like, who are you? But yeah, she's like super smart, but you know, she's not really having a great time in school. You know, people are assholes, and like her roommate kind of sucks. She's like, screw it. I guess I'll join this like top secret special access program or whatever. And she goes to like this military base in the middle of nowhere, and then she meets all these other kids who are recruited. And it's kind of like a boarding school, you know, kind of like X-Men, but and then as it goes on, like she discovers like, oh, she has powers, and you know, she makes a couple friends, but also there's this kind of corruption, this something going on behind the scenes that is a bit sinister, you know.
Everything is like sort of generic. It's sort of by the numbers, but there's like the animation is like really good, and like the vocal like there's a great cast, like John Delancey.
Just an awesome voice cast. You got Mark Hamill, Corey Burton, Elizabeth Daily. Like,
yeah,
Mark Hamill is awesome in this.
Yeah, he plays like a psychotic teenage. He gets off on like crushing people's heads and stuff.
Yeah, he is just like sadistic and vicious character. But then later on, you kind of see this other side of like why he's doing these things, and like this movie's got layers. It's got flashbacks as dream sequences. It's got intense violence. It's got it all. Okay, what was the name of Threshold? Yeah, that's Mark Hamill's character.
That's a cool name, you know?
That's my favorite song by Sex Bomb.
You know, speaking of Metal Gear, the Solid Snake type character, there's like a John Delancey who played Q on Star Trek. He plays this like grizzled, like Clint Eastwood super soldier guy, and he's like very tender but gruff.
Yeah, you shared a screenshot of him, and I was expecting him to be like a bad guy. But no, he's kind of like this grizzled vet. He's really looking out for the kids. On the surface, it seems like kind of familiar with elements, you know, like you've seen before, young characters with superpowers, kind of like an evil military force going on. But like the way it plays out is like, it has so many cool ideas, and it has a lot of heart, and it's really unique and just kind of comes together. They just did things I was not expecting. Like, oh wow, I was not expecting them to go these places, you know?
Yeah, it keeps you guessing. Like you watching it, I watched it with a group of like 8 or 10 people in a Discord server, and we were like, by the end, we were like yelling at the film. Like it was one of those things where like when it ended, it's like, no, like it can't end there. Like,
it almost feels like a backdoor like pilot for a series. I was like obsessed with this for like weeks after watching it. Go watch Gen 13. And also the characters are really charming. Like the main 3, like they're just such a great group. You know, I would totally watch a show about these characters. They feel like real sincere friends, you know.
They're very like cute and sweet with each other.
Yeah.
There's like a moment where like there's like a guy friend and like a girlfriend, and the main character, she's like upset because she just turned into like an 8-foot tall Amazonian like super muscle thing. There's like a scene where like the movie stops and like they like check in on each other. You know, like this, it has heart to it, you know? Like it made me want to like look into the rest of the series, and I read like the first issue of the comic, and it's like, yikes. The art style is like rough, you know?
How are their clothes so reflective?
I know, right? They're like shiny. Everything's shiny. It's so weird because it's like there are things in the artwork that I do appreciate. There's a lot of like knowledge of like anatomy, and there's some like good ink work. And I like the way like the hair is rendered. But then like stylistically, in terms of like the creative choices made, it's like, I don't know, you know?
Yeah. I'm looking at one of the covers, and it kind of looks like she's not wearing a shirt that's like painted on, you know?
Yeah.
But I guess that was the style at the time. Yeah.
Gen 13 cosplay. Let's see. Let me pull this up. Has anyone debased themselves? Okay. That's pretty good.
I want to cosplay as Colonel John Jack Lynch.
Everyone's like, cool Snake cosplay.
Metal Gear. Can't be.
Gen 13.
Gen 13.
Her name's Caitlin Fairchild, 18 years old. High IQ. She has a great gen factor potential.
She doesn't look like much to me.
Caitlin Fairchild, my name is John Lynch. I knew your father, Caitlin.
Oh, somebody make it stop!
These are human lives. Young human lives you are playing with.
You heard him, you creep! You freaking stormtrooper creep!
You won't join me, then I promise you death.
You're not going to hurt anybody.
You were awesome, Grunge Man.
I was never so happy to see anyone in my whole life.
Me too.
Yeah, before we wrap things up, do you want to share where people can check out your work?
You can find me at Morgan Ryan Art on Instagram, X, and Blue Sky. I have that, and I also have a Gumroad at Morgan Ryan Art. You can find all of previous year zines for the Bionicle Illustrated, plus one series that I'm still working on called Invasion of the Throwbots. Don't worry, people. Chapter 3 is coming. It's coming. It's just on the back burner. If you've liked the artwork of mine that you've seen, you can feel free to commission me. I have a commission sheet pinned on my X account, and also it should be on my Instagram account. And also, if you want to get involved with the Bionicle 2005 zine, if you want to contribute artwork, a piece of writing, really any creative contribution you'd like and you want to get involved, feel free to reach out to me. We're always taking on new people. My dream for the series is that it's like a shared creative space where we can all get involved and all collaborate. And also stay tuned soon because I'm going to put out a thing for this year's zine for mocks, so builders can get involved with the zine as well.
Yeah,
So,
showcase your
I think
builds.
that covers it.
Hell yeah. I'm really excited for the comic you're working on and the 2005 Bionicle fanzine. It's going to be really cool. So, yeah, thanks again for coming on. I just want to say, like, you're one of my favorite people to talk to, and I think you're just so, like, as an artist, like, just incredibly thoughtful in just such a creative and emotional way. So I can't wait to see what you're working on next. So thanks again.
And likewise, you're one of my favorite people. You are always a pleasure to talk to, and I always enjoy hanging out. And I feel like we always align with everything, basically. So it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I already said thanks. So, and then I'll say, right on. Well, I'll catch you later then. All right, take care, and I'll see you soon.
Bye.